Imagine waking up one morning and realizing something is different. Your thoughts feel sharper, time feels slower. Every sound carries meaning. Every memory feels perfectly intact. You look at the world, and for the first time, it feels as if you are seeing it completely. For decades, one idea has echoed through movies, books, and popular culture. Humans use only 10% of their brain. It's a powerful claim. It suggests hidden potential, untapped power, a sleeping giant inside every human mind. And it leads to one haunting question. What if humans used 100% of their brain? Would we become geniuses overnight? Would we unlock abilities that feel like magic? Or would the human mind collapse under the weight of its own power? This is not a story of fantasy or superheroes. This is a serious exploration of biology, neuroscience, and consequence. A story about limits and what happens when those limits disappear. First, we need to confront the myth itself. The idea that humans only use 10% of their brain is not supported by modern science. Brain scans show activity across nearly all regions of the brain. Every day, different areas activate for different tasks: movement, memory, emotion, language, imagination. The brain is not a single switch waiting to be turned on. It is a vast network, constantly active, constantly adapting. So when we ask what would happen if humans used 100% of their brain, we are not asking about turning something on. We are asking what would happen if every part of the brain operated at peak efficiency, all at once, without biological limits. To understand the consequences, we must first understand what the brain truly is. The human brain weighs about 1.4 kilograms. Inside it are roughly 86 billion neurons. Each neuron forms thousands of connections, creating more than 100 trillion synapses. It is the most complex object we know of in the universe. It controls your heartbeat, your fear, your imagination, your sense of self. Even now, the brain consumes about 20% of the body's total energy. Despite being only 2% of its weight, it is already pushing the body close to its metabolic limits. Now imagine pushing it further. The first change would not be intelligence, it would be perception. Your senses would sharpen far beyond normal human experience. You wouldn't just hear sounds, you would separate layers within them. You wouldn't just see colors, you would detect subtle variations the human eye usually ignores. Time itself might feel altered. With faster neural processing, the world could appear slower, more detailed. Moments would stretch, allowing more thought within each second. Memory would transform completely. Every experience could be stored with extraordinary clarity. Names, faces, conversations, emotions, nothing would fade. Learning would accelerate dramatically. Languages absorbed in days. Complex systems understood intuitively. Patterns recognized instantly, without conscious effort. But this power would come with a serious cost. The brain already demands enormous energy. Running it at full capacity would require far more fuel than the human body can safely supply. The heart would strain to keep up. Blood pressure would rise. Oxygen demand would surge. Without major biological changes, the body would begin to fail. To survive, humans would need stronger hearts, more efficient lungs, and faster energy production. In other words, using 100% of the brain would not just change the mind, it would force the evolution of the entire human body. Then there is emotion. The brain does not only process logic, it generates feeling, fear, joy, love, anger, empathy. With full neural activation, emotions would intensify dramatically. Happiness could become overwhelming. Grief could become unbearable. Traumatic memories might never fade. Empathy could deepen to the point where the suffering of others feels physically painful. Every injustice would cut deeper. Every loss would echo louder. Society might become more compassionate or completely unstable. Psychological balance would become the greatest challenge of all. If humanity managed to adapt physically and emotionally, intelligence would reach levels never seen in history. Problem solving would accelerate beyond anything we know. Scientific breakthroughs that once took centuries could happen in decades or even years. Diseases cured, energy crises solved. The universe understood in ways we can barely imagine today. Genius would no longer be rare, it would be normal, but intelligence without limits raises a dangerous question. What happens when everyone becomes too smart for the systems they live in? Modern society depends on structure. Education is gradual. Jobs rely on specialization. Governments function through hierarchy. A population operating at full cognitive capacity would disrupt all of it. Schools would become obsolete. Many professions would vanish. Authority would be constantly questioned. Why follow flawed systems when solutions are obvious? Why accept inequality when it can be logically dismantled? This could lead to a golden age of cooperation and innovation, or to chaos, because intelligence does not automatically produce wisdom. History offers warnings. We have seen individuals with extraordinary cognitive abilities, savants who can calculate instantly, recall vast amounts of information, or perceive patterns invisible to others. Yet these abilities often come with trade-offs: emotional difficulties, social isolation, neurological stress. Nature rarely gives without taking something in return. Evolution optimizes for survival, not perfection. A brain operating at full capacity may simply be too powerful for the fragile human organism that carries it. If this change happened overnight, the consequences would unfold rapidly. First would come sensory overload. Millions would struggle to process the flood of information. Next would come physical breakdown, hospitals overwhelmed by neurological stress and metabolic failure. Then psychological instability, anxiety, depression, and identity crises spreading across the globe. After that, societal disruption, economic systems collapse as productivity and expectations exceed control. Finally, adaptation or extinction. Only those who could balance power with control would survive, and those survivors would no longer be fully human. Over generations, a new species would emerge. Communication might move beyond spoken language into direct neural understanding. Individual identity could blur as collective intelligence grows. Art, culture, and creativity would transform into forms we can barely imagine. Even death might be redefined, as memory and consciousness find new ways to persist. At that point, the question would no longer be about using 100% of the brain. It would be about what it means to be human at all. The myth of unused brain power reveals something deep within us: our desire to be more, to know more, to transcend our limits. But limits exist for a reason. They protect us, they ground us, they shape meaning. Perhaps the true potential of the human mind is not about using more of it, but using it wisely, understanding, balance, restraint. Because the greatest danger is not an underused brain. It is a mind with unlimited power and no control. So here is the final question. If humanity truly unlocked its full mental potential, would we create a utopia, or would we destroy ourselves trying to manage it? And if that power became possible tomorrow, would we even choose to use it?